Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. Thank you for joining us. We're virtual only. We're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The phone number works if you'd like to contact us. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality, our existence. As things get stranger in the world, we study Revelation and we try to relate a little piece of it each time. In this case, it's Revelation 12. So we're talking about the timing of the Revelation 12 signs. Some people pointed out to 2017. Some people are starting to point to 2024. I'm saying I don't think it's this year. So it's based on Rosh Hashana, but when? So let's discuss it and realize that the Bible is written in parables and prophecy, and unless you're digging in the Bible, it doesn't make sense at all. So to you has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God, but to the rest it is given in parables, seeing that they may not see and hearing that they may not understand. So there are going to be times moving forward where people just don't get it because they can't see the parables or the prophecy. Try to learn, dig. The more you dig, the more you'll understand of the Bible. So there are people right now, like Mark Biltz, that are saying this sign of Pons Brooks, this comet coming up, is a sign of the end times, of possibly Revelation 12. I disagree with him. I love him dearly. He's a great man, but I really disagree. So let's give you the verses so that you'll understand. This is Revelation 12, 1 through 4. Now a great sign was seen in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and under her feet the moon. So that happens every fall. Virgo reclines. She has the sun behind her head. She has the moon at her feet, and she has the 12 stars behind her head. Okay, fine. She was pregnant and about to give birth. She screamed in the agony of labor. Another sign was seen in the heaven, and it was a great red dragon. So is this comet, the dragon comet, going to be the Revelation 12 sign? I doubt it, but it's very interesting, and it's worth the conjecture time frame or time. So 7 heads, 10 horns on the red dragon, and on his heads were 7 royal crowns. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the heaven and threw them down to the earth. Now, I would argue that's future forward because we probably had some watchers angels fall in first Enoch, and that would be 200 of them, and I would assume Satan, whatever his name happens to be, would be one of those 200. Okay, but we haven't had a third of the angels fall yet. And when it does happen, you're going to have some new neighbors, and you're going to see fallen angelic behaviors occurring, and it'll be horrific. Okay, so basically Satan then is waiting with his third of the stars falling out of heaven, and it stood in front of the woman about to give birth so that it might devour the child the moment it was born. Interesting. I don't think that's occurring right now. One, that's a fall sign, and this is the spring. This is Passover. It's very interesting to have the devil comet 12P Pons Brooks show up during Passover. It's going to be in the Draco constellation between the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. It's going to be pretty. We'll see it. People are talking about the red heifer. It will not be sacrificed on Passover. Just get ready for that. Ramadan is over, and there is no rapture of the church right now. It would be at least 7 years from now, if not longer. So what are we trying to do? We're debunking today. We're trying to give you prophecy that's real. We're trying to show you the Bible, and we're trying to show you the news and debunk a little bit more today. So I deal with charismania all the time. David Wilkerson did too. I am a charismatic. Okay, I'm not a cessationist. I believe the gifts continue on. But I also notice that some people, like Scott Clark, just use that as a crutch to be able to constantly give you junk that's worthless. Okay, nobody polices them. He doesn't understand that you will have new neighbors. Once again, the Satan, and probably a third of the angels will be on the earth at that point in time, cast out. And so he truly predicted that he found this rapture sign back in 2017, and it was September 23rd, and that he's the inventor of all of this, and he really did nothing other than just hype us up for another rapture date. And it passed. Obviously, it's 7 years ago almost. So once in 7,000 years, so what? Who cares? And I get into fights with charismaniacs all the time over this. I got into a fight with a lady the other day over this, where she said, "No, you're wrong. 2017 was the sign. It was the Revelation 12 sign." Once again, new neighbors. I'll cover that in a couple of minutes here. Okay, so the rapture end times in 2017 with Trey Smith and Scotty Clark and Casper. friendly ghost. So they were wrong, and nobody apologizes ever on anything at all. So that was nearly 7 years ago. They predicted the rapture uh, in 2017, and they were wrong. And that's charismania. And that's why, and this is funny too, this is biblical hermeneutics saying on September 23rd, 2017, it appears the Revelation 12, 1 through 2 sign was fulfilled. Okay? And no. So once again, you have no new neighbors on the earth. So the Satan was not cast out at that point in time. So obviously the sign didn't occur. And this guy is saying the case is closed. Based on biblical hermeneutics, that was the sign. It'll happen in the future. Don't lock into dogma. Then, after 2017, we have 2019, we have two false prophets, Barbara Miracalo. She said Satan has been cast down. This is the Revelation 12 sign, and it'll cause chaos and mayhem in the nations. Well, she doesn't understand the new neighbors concept, which is that you will have Satan and the fallen angels, 1/3 of the angelic host, down on earth causing mayhem. That hasn't happened yet. It didn't happen in 2019, that's for sure. And then Elizabeth Marie came back the next day. This is August 2nd of 2019, and said, yep, there's a war in heaven right now. Satan's cast down. Revelation 12. Yeah, she doesn't understand new neighbors. She doesn't care. She'll never apologize for anything like that. But yeah, it didn't happen in 2019. She's called Latter Rain 333. So once again, Scotty Clark came back and said, well, if it is in 2017, which he discovered, then it's got to be 2024. And he sets dates all the time, and he's always wrong. And he's citing the U.S. debt clock as if that's somehow going to trigger the rapture. Or, the sustainable goals for the United Nations, as if that's going to set it off. Those are not biblical signs. And yeah, it's interesting that it's once in 7,000 years. Get ready for it to be in the future, because once again, you'll have new neighbors. So this is Robert Breaker, nice enough fellow, pre-trib, smart guy, but he constantly comes up with rapture things, and he's citing the UN Sustainable Goals as being that sign of the rapture. So he's citing basically the same thing as Scotty Clark. Okay, wrong again. And so he's really citing then for 2031. Okay, fine. I don't think it'll be 2031. So, proving the Revelation 12 sign, this is Jarrett, who runs Supernatural by Design. Smart guy, good researcher. He constantly has errant pre-trib dates set, and he's always wrong. And he gets more excited. It's an endorphin rush. It is. Every time you set the wrong date, you have to set another wrong date after that. It's like gambling. You can't step away from the table when you're hot and you're losing your shirt. Same thing with drugs and alcohol, the endorphin rush. Okay, continuing on. So this is from Mark Biltz, and he's saying there would be a war in Aviv, which is Nissan, of 2024, and he predicted it to start on April 11th, which is Nissan 3, the Great War. And he's citing Daniel 10, 1 through 4. And guess what? He was right, because Persia, Iran, gave a notice to old Biden, our president, and said, hey, we're going to bomb Israel after their simplistic attack in Lebanon. And it was Syria. So anyway, Iran did that. 99% of the bombs did nothing. They were knocked out of the sky. But it's interesting that they did request it. And Mark said they will request, or Iran will start this Persian type war on April 11th. And he was right. So I'm impressed, okay? And this is based on, 3 weeks of prayer. Daniel was praying and fasting. And then on the 24th day of the first month, which would be after Passover is over, you would have this war, okay? But the war would start, the Great War would be announced on Nissan 3, April 11th, when Daniel started fasting and praying. And so the war would probably ratchet up after Passover. Okay, and just so you're aware, also, Mark is citing the Shemitah cycle begins in 2029 and 2030. I don't know. I don't predict anything on that anymore. Okay, continuing on. So what I'm arguing, I love Mark dearly. I think he's a great scholar, but he's saying Daniel 10 and Revelation 12 are outside of the Great Tribulation. And I'm saying that most scholars would cite that it's the midpoint. Revelation 12 would align very closely with the Antichrist coming into Jerusalem, and that, I'm citing that you will know that it occurs based on the new neighbors concept, which means that won't you be my neighbor? When Satan and the other fallen angels show up, you'll know they're here. Okay? They're the new neighbors. They're the neighbors from hell. So when you see that, that should be the midpoint based on Revelation 12, based on, let's see, what are the other midpoint things that occur? I mean, there's just a whole lot of things. We'll just say 2 Thessalonians 2 describes Satan walking in and presenting the abomination of desolation, and that should be the midpoint. It kind of describes it that way. Many scholars agree that that seems to be a midpoint statement, even if they're rapture people. So once again, if you were going to have the red heifer sacrificed, it would have to occur just minutes before you go into the Great Tribulation, the 7 years. Okay, so I love Sadhu. I've cited him in the past. I'm very disappointed in some of the things that he does, which is promoting Jennifer LeClaire and Jeremiah Johnson. Jeremiah said, Trump's going to win in 2020, and that's a lie. Jennifer has her own problems. But in this case, he's right. He's one of the first people that I saw. And so at the 35-minute mark of this 2019 video, he said, you will know that the Revelation war in heaven is occurring when you have new neighbors from hell. And so he's right. He's absolutely right. And that's what got me thinking about that. It's not just one sign, it's multiple things occurring. You're going to have, basically Israel going out into the wilderness. You're going to have the new neighbors. You're going to have the sign in the skies. You're going to have all of these things. So you have to look at the totality of it, not just one little piece of it, which happens to be a sign from 2017 that was really, in fact, meaningless. So, Mark Biltz, once again, I love him. He's a friend. We compare notes at times. We talk on the phone. We've been talking for 10, 15 years. When Mark and I are plagiarized, we don't really care because God gives us more content all the time. We just pray and God gives us good content. So I see his war narrative. I don't see his Revelation 12 narrative yet. I think it occurs at the midpoint, but he sees the war narrative, which is kind of the heavenly war versus the earthly war. Okay, fine, but not a world war yet. And he would agree with many people, including me, that the Gog-Magog war occurs at the end of the 7 years. So it didn't happen in 2017. He looks for rhyming patterns just like I do, and that's what we study and we present. Does this mean a war in 2024? Yeah, he seems to be very correct right now. I'm arguing that when you see the princes of yore assembling for the final battles, that's the midpoint, and so these are the fallen angels. But once again, when you watch my videos, I don't think you'll ever see me predict wars or even talk much about wars or battles other than the Gog-Magog at the end. Biltz is recommending that we'll probably have an Isaiah 17:1 Damascus battle soon where they're destroyed, and then also Psalm 83. We'll see. We'll see. Very interesting, So once again, he was on this Janie Duvall show, and this was recent. I'm sorry, I don't have the date of it, but basically citing the Feast of Purim, and he prophesied war for April 2024. He was correct. There was a blood moon eclipse on 3/24/25 of 2024. There will be another one in 2025 during Purim, and another one in Purim of 2026. That pattern to him means war, war, war. He's correct so far. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Does this devil comet mean that we are going to have some other sign, this Revelation 12? No. But I will say that it does mean that we should be aware and be patient. There will appear signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on earth. Nations will be in anxiety and bewilderment at the sound and surge of the sea as people faint with fear at the prospect of what is overtaking the world. For the powers, now this is dunamis, it's not exactly the word that I was looking for, but the powers in heaven will be shaken, and I think that's possibly the powers, meaning the fallen angels. It's dunamis, but going from Hebrew, I had hoped it would be more like Zava, which would be heavenly host, the fallen ones in that case, and they will then eventually see the Son of Man coming in the cloud. But I think that's real close to stating the powers are fallen angels, and they will be shaken in heaven. Okay, he'll be shaking everything. So the devil comet again, very interesting, but I don't think it's that sign that we're looking for. But yeah, I love reading the articles. It's a green sign, which is interesting. This is the one of the few articles that describes. So this is Getty Images showing a green comet. So 12P will be the mother of dragons makes its first visit to the inner solar system. This is from DailyMail.com in more than 70 years. And so it will be green and it will be rather pretty. And the green sword of the fourth seal matches, and that would be the first sign of the first of the four plagues is a Ramphea, which is comets are like swords. They just are. And that's a green horse on the side there. It's a Barad horse, which would be a speckled, dappled type horse. And so it'd be kind of greenish and grayish or whitish. Okay. It's interesting. It is really interesting. So once again, I've been talking about these powers. So I'll read from Isaiah 34:4 and see what you think. Now that is dunamis. And so, and shall melt away all the dunamis of the heavens, and shall coil up in the heaven as a scroll, and all the stars shall fall as leaves, fall from a grapevine, as fall from leaves from a fig tree. So that's Isaiah 34, talking about the new dunamis falling, and it could be the powers of these fallen angels. It could be, okay? And then that midpoint verse that I'm looking for that has that same word, and it's dunamis again, duname, whose is the arrival according to the energy of Ha-Satan in every duname, and signs, which is it's semeion, and teros, miracles of a lie. So at the midpoint, Satan arrives, and it's dunamis, and then even though it's not the same word being used in Revelation 6:12, I just want you to see some of the same activities going on. Then, as I watched, as he broke the sixth seal, there was a great earthquake. That's a micronova unlocking the crust, and the mantle breaks free. And the sun turned black, as it's not an eclipse, it's a final stage of a micronova, which goes again where the sun goes from white, no, from yellow to white to red to black. When it gets to black, you're going micronova, but it'll be layered like goat's shiny mohair. Yes, it's in the text. I'll show you that in a future video where it's mohair, which is an Angora sweater. Think of a thick, fluffy sweater in Angora. That's mohair. And so it should be very shiny and layered. And yes, that's in the Bible. It's in the Greek text. It's so cool. Okay. But it'll be like sackcloth worn in mourning. The full moon will become blood red. And that, of course, is the next one is March 14th of 2025. And the stars fell from heaven to earth. That's a micronova dust production event. Just as a fig tree drops its bitter winter figs, that would be during the winter, when shaken by a strong wind, the sky receded like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved from its place. When the sky is receding, and it's occurring right now, that is in terms of the scroll, is a Megillah scroll in the Greek, and that would be a smaller scroll. So you wouldn't see the whole sky be rolled up, just parts of it. And we're seeing that in the southern Atlantic anomaly right now as the sky is rolling up like a scroll, and more of that will occur. So you'll have more UV issues and other issues. Okay, so I work with Doug Hamp all the time, and he's been telling me that it's going to be Babylonian. And, I kind of looked at it like, well, okay, whatever. But then as I look at Revelation 9 and these monsters that are released from underneath the earth, they look Babylonian. So Doug has done some nice research on this. So maybe he's right. So Revelation 9:7, when these locusts are released, they're prepared for battle. They had what looked like gold crowns on their heads, and their faces looked like human faces, and they had hair like women's hair, and teeth like the teeth of lions, and they wore armor made of iron, and their wings roared like an army of chariots rushing into battle, and they had tails that stung like scorpions, and for 5 months and they had the power, that is not dunamis, that's exousia, to torment people. Their king was the angel from the bottomless pit. His name was in the Hebrew Abaddon, and in Greek Apollyon, the destroyer. So just keep it in mind that things are going to be released closer. This is about a midpoint of the Great Tribulation, about 3.5 years in, probably about 2.5 to 3, but close enough. You'll see all sorts of things released into the sky and coming up from underneath, and it'll be just horrific. Okay, so once again, I wanted to cite that the planets are going to align. The Pons Brook will show up. It'll be pretty. When the planets align, you might have more earthquakes. It might occur. So this strange song, this Aquarius song from the 1970s, when the moon is in the seventh house, which is Venus, and Jupiter aligns with Mars, and you'll be seeing things like that coming up here. I'll show you that next. Then peace will guide the planets. No, it'll be chaos guide the planets, and love will steer the stars. No, it won't be that kind of love. It'll be narcissism will steer the stars. They were arguing for the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Well, so basically, you're going to see alignments popping up here. Coming up here on April 20th, well, actually 2 days ago, April 20th, or 1 day ago, we had the planetary alignment, and it was interesting. It was Venus and Mercury and Neptune and Mars and Saturn. And that can cause earthquakes, not in this case, but it can at times. You've got other alignments coming up. You'll have the April 20th, as I mentioned, June 3rd, with Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. August 28th is another interesting alignment, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And then January 18th of 2025, a large morning alignment of Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn. It could cause earthquakes, okay? So keep in mind the last time all planets aligned was on April 8th of 2024 during this total solar eclipse. It's very interesting, people. So the moon will align with 3 planets coming up on June 29th of 2024. And then August, as I mentioned, Mars and Jupiter will align in a conjunction, which means they will share the same right ascension. So it's, once again, when the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars. Very interesting, you know. So just be aware, as things align, you might see more earthquakes, and we're probably due for earthquakes. So I don't know if this is that actual sign. That sign was supposed to occur back in 2012, but it didn't. And so, once again, Mars and Jupiter will align on August 14th of 2024. So will this mean anything? Yes, so the 7th house is the planet Venus, and this is from Astrology Prophets. I don't like to cite much of this dark stuff. The one intriguing thing from my side that I like to cite is August 14th, according to HebeCal, is of 9-ish to 10-ish. And that's really not a good day at all. So when you see this alignment of Mars and Jupiter on August 14th, keep in mind that is Av 9. That is not a good day for anybody, especially Jews. So just note it, be aware of it. Once again, so we'll run through these things one more time. I'm saying that you won't have the new neighbors until the midpoint, okay? And that's the final 12 years. And so be ready for all sorts of interesting things to occur. So, you know, the devil comet will be interesting. You'll see you know, the new neighbors theory, and we don't have those right now. And then, let's see here. Is there anything else that I want to cite? Yeah, so no rapture, no red heifer will occur, no sacrifice on Passover. And so, you know, we just move forward. And so it'll be interesting that you'll see 12P by Jupiter at some point in time. And, you know, it's so obviously here it is. The process expected to make the comet particularly bright on the day that I'm celebrating, and friends of mine, April 22nd of 2024, you'll see the brightest part of 12P. So where are we? We're in the birth pangs. We're probably in the 4th seal. Peak death seems to be coming around 2026. You'll notice it. It'll get worse. The tribulation will start as the red heifer is sacrificed going into the tribulation. Then we would go into the Great Tribulation 3.5 years later. When's Revelation 12? The midpoint between those two. That seems to be the case. You're waiting for a wedding at the end of time after, as this age ends. It will occur on Rosh Hashana or Yom Kippur or Sukkot of some year. That's the fall. And Rosh Hashana is that time when Revelation 12 is in the sky as Virgo is reclining. So just keep that in mind. Happy Passover, 5784. I'll be celebrating, and bless you with a great Passover and a fun time with your family and friends. Take care.